أفلح من صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على الأشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبي إله العالمين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيت الله الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات الله على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the United Network of Islam, we welcome you to our 2026 Ashura program here at the Islamic Center of America. As we continue through these blessed nights of Muharram, we reflect on the timeless message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, a message of truth, justice, sacrifice, and unwavering faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We also remember all those around the world facing oppression and hardship, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants relief to the oppressed, mercy to the martyrs, and strength to those who remain steadfast upon the truth. At this time, we remember our marhumin, our loved ones who have passed away, and all the martyrs in the past and present. I kindly ask everyone to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, followed by Allah salawat for the marhumin of our families, our communities, and for those who all have sacrificed for justice and dignity. بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our prayers and hasten the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi, Ashallah ta'ala Fajr Sharif. To begin tonight's program, please help me welcome Brother Ibrahim Ajamid to the podium to recite a few verses from the Holy Quran. Please help me welcome with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كافها يا عين صاد. ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا. قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا. وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا. يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله رب يا زكريا إنا نبشرك بغلام يا زكريا إنا نبشرك بغلام اسمه يحيى لم نجعل له من قبل سميا قال رب أنى يكون لي غلام وكانت امرأتي عاقرا وقد بلغت من الكبر عتيا قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين وقد خلقتك من قبل ولم تك شيئا قال رب اجعل لي آية قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس 3 ليال سويا فخرج على قومه من المحراب فأوحى إليهم أن سبحوا بكرة وعشيا يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة وآتيناه الحكم صبيا وحنانا من لدنا وزكاة وكان تقيا وبرا بوالديه ولم يكن جبارا عصيا وسلام عليه يوم ولد ويوم يموت ويوم يبعث حيا صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
Thank you, Brother Ibrahim, for that beautiful recitation. If we can give him another loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before we begin tonight's program, we have a few announcements to make, inshallah. First, please save the date of UNI's second annual retreat taking place from October 29th through November 1st. We look forward to gathering once again for a weekend of faith, learning, reflection, and brotherhood and sisterhood. Second, we invite you to participate in our nightly sponsorship opportunity. A donation may be made in the name of your deceased family member or loved one. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower His infinite mercy upon all of our marhumin and elevate their ranks among the righteous. If you would like to donate, please see me or one of the organizers after the program and you will be We'll be happy to assist you, inshallah. Tonight's sponsors will have been donated on behalf of all the marhumin and behalf of all the women who are struggling to have children with the thawab on the behalf of Imam al-Hujjah Ajallahu Ta'ala Faraj al-Sharif and all the marhumin al-Shuhada Muslimin. If we can please recite Surah Al-Fatiha بعد الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. Thank you. Third, please stay connected with you and I with following our social media pages and joining our WhatsApp group chat to stay informed about upcoming events, programs, and volunteer opportunities and retreat updates. If you'd like to know more information, please see me or one of the organizers after the program, inshallah. Now, without further ado, it is my honor to welcome our respected speaker for this evening, Sheikh Amin Rastani. Please help me welcome Sheikh Amin to the Mambar with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. See if this keeps cutting off, it's a problem too. For me, it'll be great if we do the lecture. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Sounds good. Sound, testing. Keeps. Check 1, 2, check. Double check. 1, 2, 3. Okay, inshallah, it disconnects. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let me get my thoughts together very quickly. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi al-tahirin salawat. Salli ala Muhammadin wa Muhammad. Okay, these days we've been trying to fix our perspective on things. Tonight I want to look at things from another angle as well. So far, what we learned from the Islamic literature that we have is that when it comes to relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take care of things, we sometimes mess up there because we idolize other than Allah. No matter how great that other is, okay? No matter how great that other is, even if it's one of the Imams, even if it's the Holy Prophet ﷺ, still idolizing them to the point where they take Allah's place in our eyes practically. I say practically. Theoretically speaking, if anyone was to ask us, oh, are you replacing Allah with this person? We say, no, obviously not. But practically, we will find deep down inside that, for example, Islam cannot survive without so-and-so being alive. No, we went through those discussions. On the flip side, we talked about the evil ones and the perspective there in regards to why Allah doesn't stop them from doing what they're doing. Then we also moved on into another one of those things that gives us perspective. We just have to look at it the right way, and then all of a sudden the importance of Tawheed and putting Allah in everything shows itself more. That was the whole concept of dua. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give long life, He's going to not get in the way of the evil ones. And we're talking about all of these things related to today as well, and everything that we're going through to this day and age. If Allah doesn't get in their way, He has also introduced to us something as well called dua. Now we sometimes will look down on dua and consider it a very passive approach to things, a very passive sort of solution to things. Oh, this person is weak, this person is scared, they just want to do dua. While when you read the sources, of course we have to do whatever we can when there is a lot happening around us and oppression. But we're not supposed to forget dua as well, right? Dua is not that last thing you do where when you can't do anything else. Okay, there's a running joke out there that it says that someone tries their best to achieve something, they can't. Eventually, they have no choice. Like, okay, I have no choice now. I gotta ask Allah. In other words, before this, I might have had power myself to fulfill this matter. But now that it seems that nothing else can get it done, okay, it's time to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The literature says otherwise. The literature, we went through it over 2 nights, is very clearly letting us know that dua is a school of and a lesson of Tawheed. Okay? Not Tawheed, believing God is one. Tawheed meaning practically understanding that He is the one. So out of all those hadiths, I'll just mention one of them again. It said, even for the small things, do dua. The small things that you're sure you can take care of yourself, you do dua for those. Why? If I know it's going to come about anyway, then why should I do dua for it? That's the whole point. It's giving you perspective that even the small stuff, you need Allah for it. Yeah? And that's why the hadith ended with, Inna sahib al-sigar, sahib al-kibar. The one who is in possession of the little stuff that you think you don't need to do dua for, and you only need to do dua for the big stuff, yeah? The one who owns the big stuff is the same one who owns the small stuff. In other words, where are you guys going? How are you looking at things? It's all about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even with the small stuff. Talked about how the dua, Allah has knowledge of everything. But still, the hadith said, I want you to list your things to me. Talk to me. Just don't be like, oh, Allah, you know whatever I want, so give it to me. No, more than that. There's a functionality to dua. Dua is actually conditioning us, conditioning the nafs and the ruh, understand that He's everything. This is called tawheed. Tawheed af'ali. All right. Now, we want to look at it from another angle. And of course, Muharram and Ashura, Imam Hussein are the best examples for tawheed. Okay? And reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fact that Imam Hussein in his last moments is still doing dua for something that we think is not going to happen and is impossible. He says, oh Allah, show me makhrajan wa farajan in the maqtal where he is about to be slain. He's still asking Allah, oh Allah, show me a way out of this. But you're not going to get out of this. Not going to get out of this. Doesn't matter. Dua isn't just for me to get to what I want to get to. It's an excuse to remind myself Allah is everything. You know what it's like? Like istighfar. Like istighfar. Hopefully it's not too annoying. Is it still going off and on? Or istighfar, what is our understanding of it? Our understanding of istighfar is I have sinned, I need forgiveness, I must seek it. And so what do? I ask Allah for forgiveness. Yeah? But then we have hadith by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. He says, I do istighfar 70 times a day. But Rasulullah, you don't have any sins. Because istighfar isn't just for sin. Okay? Dua isn't just for getting my wishes. So we talked enough about that. Now we want to move on into this idea of not just musibah, but everything that happens in our lives. But I want to take inspiration from Ziyarat Ashura. In Ziyarat Ashura, when we go to sajda, what do we say? Allahumma lakal, lakal hamdu. Oh Allah, hamd belongs to you. Okay? Hamd can mean two things. When we say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen in Surah Fatiha, what does Alhamdulillah mean there? All praise is due to Allah. Yeah? If there's anything good out there that we're going to praise, that praise in reality belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Alhamdulillah. All praise due to Allah. Hamd sometimes means praise and glorification. Sometimes hamd, like when you get something good that you were always after, you say Alhamdulillah. What does that mean? That means shukran lillah. So sometimes hamd means shukr and thankfulness. Okay? In Ziyarat Ashura, we have that line, Allahumma lakal hamd. Oh Allah, all hamd belongs to you. Which hamd are we talking about in this context now? The hamd that means praise or the hamd that means shukr? Well, the line goes on to say, Allahumma lakal hamdu hamdash shakirina laka ala musabihim. That, oh Allah, we are sending hamd towards you. What kind of hamd? The hamd that the shakirin send. That means we are thanking you. Ala musabihim, over the musibah that befell Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Interesting. Where does this perspective come from? Because Ashura is all bad, trust me. Yes, she said, or has been narrated to have said, I saw nothing but beauty. Yeah? I saw nothing but beauty. In other words, she is saying that when you look at it, it's all bad, but I see beauty in it because of what's going to happen and what came out of this whole incident. But the incident itself of Ashura itself is a bitter one, is a horrible one. Yeah? That the Ziyarat Ashura says that the inhabitants of the heavens are weeping over. Yeah? So yes, it's all beauty, but from within it's beauty. Otherwise, on the outside, and according to the standards of everybody, this is not something you wish for, correct? Yeah. Okay, so from what perspective does this come from? From what can a person gain this perspective that shukr goes for something like this? Okay, so for that, we need to talk a little bit about this tonight. Actually, this one's going to be an important one. And for that, I'm going to go to Surah Yusuf. Surah Yusuf, that one surah of the Quran that's dedicated to the life of a prophet. We don't have any other surahs like that where it dedicates the whole surah to the Holy Prophet, to one of the prophets. I'm going to read the introduction to this surah from Al-Mizan, from Tabatabai, okay? And I'm going to go through it quickly so that we can finish it. It's a couple of pages, so it's very important. What are we talking about again? We're talking about having a perspective of Tawheed towards everything. If you have a perspective of Tawheed towards the Musibah of Imam Hussein, you say, Allahumma lakal hamd, hamd al-shakirin. I thank you. We thank you. Okay? But if I don't have a perspective of Tawheed on things, there is no room for me to say, thank you for the worst thing that you gave me. Doesn't make sense. Tabatabai, he says, the goal of this surah, Surah Yusuf, is to expound God's wilayah, God's guardianship over the servant who has sincerely dedicated his faith to him and becomes so filled by his love that he seeks no substitute and never turns to anything besides Allah. Allah takes charge of his affairs, nurtures him with the utmost care, brings him near, quenches his spiritual thirst from his nearmost source, chooses him exclusively for himself, divinely grants him life even when all apparent causes appear to have resolved upon his destruction. Does that not ring a bell? It rings the bell of Ashura for us. Tabatabai is talking about Yusuf alayhi salam, obviously. But this applies even more, I want to say, to Ashura. When all apparent causes appear to have resolved upon his destruction, elevates him even when circumstances seem to belittle him, and empowers him even when the vicissitudes of time seem to diminish in his stature. Alright, this is illustrated by Allah in this surah through the narrative of Yusuf alayhi salam. Tabatabai says, well, what do you mean? He says Yusuf was a servant of Allah who was sincere and devoted in his worship. So Allah chose him exclusively and honored him with his might. Though circumstances conspired to degrade and belittle him, every time he was cast into peril, Allah saved him using the very means that seemed to drive him towards ruin. The same thing that you thought was going to destroy Yusuf became the reason for his elevation. The only thing is, at first glance, it doesn't look like that. But if a person brings Allah into the equation, okay, then they can have such a perspective. If I don't bring Allah into the equation, there is no such thing. If Allah is involved in things, I can tell myself, okay, look, this looks like it's leading to your destruction. Was this in your control or not? No, it was not. I didn't choose it, on one hand. On the other hand, have you been doing your best when it comes to your responsibility to avoid such a situation? Yes, I have. Imam Hussein tried his best to get away from these animals. He left Medina, left Mecca, goes towards Kufa. They intercept him. He says, let me go back. Let me go to Yemen. Let me go here. Let me go there. They say no. Okay, he's left no choice, but he did what he needed to do, number one. Number two, the things that happened were beyond his control. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thank you. All right, so Yusuf, same thing. Yusuf alayhi salam didn't choose to be thrown into the well, correct? And when he's thrown into the well, it looks like this is what's going to lead to his destruction, right? Tabai, give us some examples. What do you mean? The same things that were going to destroy him were the same things that actually lifted him. It just takes time. It takes patience, takes some tawakkul, and takes some having the right perspective. Otherwise, you give up. All right? That's what we're here tonight for. We want to learn if we can have such a perspective ourselves. It says, though circumstances conspired to degrade and belittle him, every time he was cast into peril, Allah saved him using the very means that seemed to drive him towards ruin. For example, his brother's jealousy led them to throw him into a pit. Then they sold him for a meager price, which took him to Egypt, where he was brought into a house of power and prestige. Okay, so when you're at the bottom of the well, guys, man, like in the middle of the desert. Like, come on. Like, you're going to die. All right? This was going to, and if he had to die, he'd still be okay with it, by the way, because it's going to pay off in his akhirah. All right? That's the thing. We can't be like, we can't be Hollywood Muslims type of thing where we think there's going to always be a happy ending. No. Happy ending, you want to know what happy ending means? Happy ending means your akhirah is a happy akhirah. But sometimes Allah has other plans and He wants to even give you a happy ending here. All right? We're not going through all of this to think that there's always going to be a happy ending on this side. Imam Hussein's ending was not a happy ending. For him and his family, it wasn't a happy ending by that standard. It was pain and suffering. But anyway, in the story of Yusuf though, it turns out it was something that had a good ending. It says, the lady of the house attempted to seduce him. When unsuccessful, falsely accused him of impropriety before her husband. However, it wasn't long before before she confessed his innocence in front of the women of the city. Nevertheless, she had accused him, which led to his imprisonment, and it goes on and on and on. In sum, it says, he also gives other examples. It says, the blood-stained shirt his brothers brought to his father, Yaqub, on the first day was the very reason for the loss of Yaqub's eyesight. Yet that same shirt sent with his brothers from Egypt to Yaqub at the end was the reason for the restoration of his vision, and so on and so forth. So he gives some examples here. He says, in sum, if I want to summarize, whenever any adverse circumstances befell Yusuf or obstructed his path to perfection, Allah made that very obstacle the means of guiding him rightly and rendering him successful in his endeavors. Okay, and it goes on. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to get to some verses, okay? And a magical word that those verses all have. We'll get to that in a minute. But before getting there, I want to say this, that what we need to do when we want to figure out our future, when we want to mold our fates, what do? Well, for example, I want to be a successful, I don't know, something that you guys will never become. I don't know, successful NBA player. All right? I want to become a successful athlete, NBA player. All right, so I sit down. What do? I go through all the variables needed to solve this equation. What are the variables for becoming a successful athlete, a professional athlete? What are they? Well, obviously, it's your physical strength, your physical health, how much discipline you have, connections sometimes. I don't know, we can have like a list of 10 items that lead to a person being a successful athlete. You sit down, you write all of these down, let's say. All right? Every variable in an equation, eventually we have to know the value of it. Otherwise, can we solve that equation? No. If you have 9 variables that you know the value of, but the 10th one is just x or n or whatever, will you be able to solve the equation? You can't. Okay? You can't solve the math problem. Okay? One vague variable. 99 are clear. One of them is not clear, yeah? You won't be able to solve the math equation. For example, if someone tells you, hey, what is the answer to 5 plus 3 minus 8 times 14, yeah, minus x? Can you give an answer? First you'll say, what's the value of x? Give me the value of x, I'll tell you the answer. This person will say, man, you're not very smart, it seems. I'll give you 99 numbers. What is 1 plus 8 times 3 times 45 minus 58 plus this plus that? Gives you 99 numbers, but then in the end says minus x. And scolds you for not being able to solve the math problem. Is their scolding justified? No. Because a chain is as strong as its weakest link. One value, one variable unclear renders the whole equation unsolvable. Okay? You with me? Now, I want to become a professional athlete. I want to be super successful. Okay? If I want to be all of that, I have to sit down and go through all the variables that are going to make me super successful. A secular person will write all of these down and will try to fulfill all of them. Yeah. But what does a non-secular individual who believes is a believer, what are they supposed to do? This person, it's scary. Every time you get into the car, Google Maps is like, you will arrive at your location at so and so. I'm saying all the time in my heart, I'm like, say inshallah, man. How do you know I'm going to get there at this time? There's like 100 things that could happen on the way. Like me and Google Maps, we're always going at it. All right? And so a believer will say, a disbeliever or someone who's secular who doesn't care about this stuff is going to be like, you do these 10 things, this is the result. You're going to get there. Yeah? A believer never can say that. Never. You know why? Because the believer knows every one of these math problems, every one of these equations in life that has different variables so that we can solve them, always has one variable in there that is not clear what it is. You know what that is? That variable is Allah. Okay? On both sides, this holds, by the way. Sometimes I'm trying to figure out how something can be done. Okay? Sometimes it's the flip side. I am 100% sure this cannot be done. Because I say that the things that I look at the equation, this is not something that's going to happen based on what I'm seeing. And then all of a sudden it happens. Yeah? The Spurs lose the game, I didn't see those games, but apparently they were they went to the last minute, some of them. Yeah? That's just a dumb example. All right? So, this is very key. In the equations of life, a believer never is sure about things. Why? And by the way, this not being sure is not a bad thing. This believer knows that I have to take care of these variables, and I will add an insha'Allah in the end. And we have a verse of the Quran for this. Don't ever say, I'm going to do something tomorrow. Illa an yasha Allah. Say, if Allah wills. Okay? Allah wants to be known and wants to be seen, and not because He needs it, because we need it. And so that is the one that is always unclear. Because it's unclear, the whole equation becomes insolvable. Yes, we cannot solve our fates, guys. That's the good part. You know why? Because we're forced to try our best, but at the same time, not idolize the fact that I figured things out. Before you know it, you're idolizing yourself. Always Allah is part of it. And guess what? A lot of times, or sometimes at least, it's going to go against that which you thought it was going to happen. Or that which you were sure is not going to happen, actually happened. Now, we have verses of the Quran that speak like this. Very interesting. Some of them have to do with some of the verses that, I don't think the brother is here, but he was reciting Quran. When I walked in, he was reciting the verses that I was going to speak about. I was like, oh, cool. That brother's special. Let him know I said that. So it says, I'm going to give you some examples here. And that magical word that I mentioned. When it comes to the story of Prophet Zakaria and his son Yahya, all right, we have a couple verses in the Quran which shows us that there's more to it than you think. So don't come to conclusions so quick. Yeah, about something being possible or not. It says here, قَالَ Rabbi. So Zakaria wanted a son for the longest time. He didn't have a son, and he gets old and feeble. And all right, when you get old and stuff, usually it's hard to have children, and he's pretty sure he can't have children anymore. So now he says, قَالَ Rabbi أَنَّا. He's given glad tidings of a son. He says, أَنَّا يَكُونُ لِي وَلَدْ لِي غُلَامٌ. How can I have a son? وَقَدْ بَلَغَنِيَ الْكِبَرُ وَامْرَأَتِي عَاقِرٌ. While I've become super old, and my wife is barren and old. What was the answer he got? This is the magical word. Before I say the magical word, this is what's happening. What is Zakaria doing? Zakaria is enumerating the different variables. What did he say? He said, me, my wife, old, barren, listed the things that are the reason for you not to have a child. Okay? What he didn't list in there was that one variable? Allah. Okay? He's surprised. It's not possible. It's not possible based on, the normal circumstances. قَالَ كَذَلِكَ. That's the magic word. كَذَلِكَ. In Lebanese, you'll say heck. Alright? Just like that. Alright? Just like that. كَذَلِكَ. That's the magic word. You know what this magic word is signifying though? This magic word كَذَلِكَ means, when he says just like that, meaning, yeah, just like that. You enumerated and you came to the conclusion that it's impossible. With the same things that you enumerated, it's going to be possible. Just like that. Because we added one thing to it, and that's Allah. Alright? كَذَلِكَ Allah yaf'alu ma yasha. Allah does what He wants. كَذَلِكَ Allah yaf'alu ma yasha. In the same story of Zakaria, somewhere else the verse is also saying the same thing. Somewhere else it uses the same wording. قَالَ كَذَلِكَ قَالَ رَبُّكَ هُوَ عَلَيَّ هَيِّنٌ. When Zakaria says, how is that possible? قَالَ كَذَلِكَ again. Just like that. Isn't that cool though? Just like that. Now, I don't know. Sometimes Allah's not going to let it happen. That's the problem. So we never know. There's no guarantees. That's life. That's how it's supposed to be. It's because we don't know that we are pushed to do dua, which is an extra incentive, an extra good thing. If we knew everything, or if our fates were always in our hands, there's no test there anymore. There's no reason for growth anymore, actually. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, in the final moment, is saying, Oh Allah, ij'al li farajan wa makhrajan. Imam Hussein, it's over. He says, it's over based on these variables. But there's one variable which is always we don't know. And so I'm gonna make use of that. And that is going to be the reason why I'm going to do dua. Although it seems like it's never going to take place. And it didn't. And it didn't. That's the cool part. It didn't, but he still understands that dua in and of itself is supposed to happen. This is something I've been stressing on for the past 2-3 nights. In the story of Maryam alayha salam, what happens? It says you're gonna have a son. قالت رب أنا يكون لي ولد ولم يمسسني بشر. She now starts listing the variables. They say you're gonna have a son. She says, how can I have a son? ولم يمسسني بشر. I haven't been close to anybody. I haven't been intimate with anybody. In other words, that's how you have a child. Yeah? What's the answer? قال كذلك. Yeah? Or if you guys say, you say al-hek. قال كذلك الله يخلق ما يشاء. Allah does it, He can get it done. In another place, when it's talking about Maryam again, the answer that's given to her, قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين. It's easy for me. كذلك. I do it just like that. It's just like we just put one more variable in there that you aren't paying attention to, and it's going to happen. That's with Zakaria, that's with Yahya and Maryam. We also have this for Ibrahim alayhi salam. هل أتاك حديث ضيف إبراهيم المكرمين? Have you heard the story of Ibrahim and his little azimi that he had? The angels came to him. Yeah, they came to him and he didn't know they were angels, so he treated them too. إذ دخلوا عليه فقالوا سلاما قال سلام فراغ إلى أهله فجاء بعجل سمين. This must have happened like in Dearborn, because this is where you get this stuff. Ibrahim alayhi salam brought them like a proper roasted lamb or whatever it was, right? That's how you guys, that's the hospitality I'm trying to say of the Lebanese and Iraqis and Arab brothers and sisters out here. That's what I'm trying to say. You guys are hospitable. Hint, hint. Ibrahim has some guests. He brings them a proper roasted animal, but he sees that they're not really reaching for it and eating, and he gets worried because, like, bro, this is like the proper stuff. You're not eating? And I know you're hungry after wherever you've journeyed from. Anyway, long story short, the angels tell them, we're angels, don't worry, this, that, and we're here to destroy Qawm Lut. But we thought we'd stop by before we destroy those people. And we want to let you know that you're going to have a son. Okay, we all know Ibrahim, poor guy, he wanted a son bad too. But it just wasn't happening with Sarah. And then Hajar had a baby with him, a son, and then Sarah had a son with him later. Anyway, when he is given the glad tidings of his son, he can't believe it, his wife can't believe it. The verse says, فَأَقْبَلَتْ إِمْرَأَتُهُ فِي صَرَّةٍ فَسَكَّتْ وَجْهَهَا. She slaps herself. She says, how can I have a son? وَأَنَا عَجُوزٌ عَقِيمٌ. Old, frail, barren. How can I? قَالُوا كَذَلِكَ. Just like that. You see, this is how the awliya look at things. Imam Hussein, how can Allah save you in this situation? كذلك. Yeah, but if He doesn't, also, it doesn't matter. Okay? This is perspective, brothers and sisters. All of a sudden, musibah, hardship, whatever it is that we look at best we look at a test. At best we look at as a means of our sins being forgiven, let's say. All of a sudden, musibah with this perspective becomes a school, a lesson of tawheed. Yeah? Impossible things becoming possible only because you add one more element to the equation. And that element being Allah, tawheed. But the cool thing about it is that Allah doesn't make it so easy. He says, add me to the equation, but you never know, I might not do it. That's how awesome I am. Acknowledge that. It's to your own benefit. I don't need it, you need it. Yeah? Because if you leave this dunya while you were doing dua because you had faith that Allah can get you out of a situation, but you still didn't get out of a situation, that's going to help you on the other side. You're still the winner. The loser is the one who is fixated only on what results they get here. No, we will do it for the results here, but if we don't get the results that we want, it doesn't matter. So what happened? Well, let's go back to Yusuf alayhi salam, all right? We're going to circle it back. It's very interesting, okay? Because when they threw Yusuf in the well, let me bring the verse real quick. When they threw him in the well and they sold him and all of that, now we're going to Yusuf. It says in verse 21, it says they cast him in the well, they sold him for like a few dirhams. قال الذي اشتراه من مصر, the one who bought him told his wife Zulaykha, أكرمي مثواه, take care of him. عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا, we can take him as a son, he might be of benefit to us, this and that. That well, which was the lowest point that Yusuf could be in, both physically because he was very low, and mentally speaking and spiritually speaking, very low. That became the same reason why he was elevated, because he got into this house. Here it says, كَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. All the good stuff that came about is because we were part of the equation when he was cast into the well. When he was cast into the well, we told him, now whether he heard it or not, we don't know, the verse doesn't say that. But we said, لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ or لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. You're gonna, one day is gonna come that you're gonna show them, remind them of what they did to you. Yeah. كَذَلِكَ. Through this bala, Yusuf becomes king, guys. King, because we all know the story how it eventually ended up there. But not only that, this bala that he went through apparently became a means of him learning ta'wil al-ahadith. It looks like it from the context. It says, we did this to put him in the place of the earth where he was, and also لِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. We taught him the interpretation of dreams, which is the tool that he used to get out eventually. All right, Now I want to circle it all back. Let's move ahead. 400, not 400, 100 verses ahead towards the end of the surah, when Yusuf has eventually reached that point where he had to reach. Ya قال الملك ائتوني به أستخلصه لنفسي. The King of Kings, not the one that he was a servant of, Yusuf was a servant of. No, the King of Kings. He said when he found out about this, the one who had the dream of 7 cows and 7 ears of corn, he said, bring this guy to me. أستخلصه لنفسي. I want him for myself. Who is this guy? With this power of interpretation of dreams and saving the land of the drought that was going to come our way. Yusuf comes, he clears his name, all that good stuff, and then look at this verse. Which verse number is this? Verse 56. It says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ. The same, in the beginning of the surah, when they threw him in the well, it says, كَذَلِكَ, and then they brought him out and they sold him. It says, كَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. Then as the story is concluding or is reaching that climax, the good part, where Yusuf is at the peak, he can do whatever he wants. And he has Allah on his side, subhanAllah. It says, the Quran says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ. Hey, just a reminder, the equation when he was cast into the well, that you didn't put Allah into the equation, but Yusuf did. Guess what? This is exactly how we did it. Why am I saying all of this, brothers and sisters, as we wrap up? I'm saying all of this, that this is perspective that Quran gives us. This is perspective. It's as easy as كَذَلِكَ. We have to, pondering over these and reflecting over these verses of Quran, which is that book of Tawheed, gives us these perspectives. If we just pay a little bit of attention, what happens is that it fixes everything. On one hand, I understand Allah is going to do anything He wants and can do whatever He wants to fix my situation. At the same time, He just might not. But in any case, I'm going to capitalize on this opportunity. Isn't that beautiful? And I'm saying this to you guys sounding like I figured it all out for myself. No. We're all in the same sinking ship. All right? I'm no different than anybody else. When the bala comes, I'm going to forget all the stuff we talked about. But if we can just keep it in the back of our minds that I don't know. All I know is this can end bad for me and it never gets better, but it was beyond my control. So this is an opportunity at least. Let me understand that Allah's part of it, and let me bring the dua into it as well. Now, this is my last line here. Guys, brothers, sisters, if we're going to be all spiritual and we're going to bring Allah into the equation, and we say كَذَلِكَ, then please, if things are not going our way, then we cannot question things. Either don't bring Allah into the equation and just be like, look, Allah created us. He put us on the face of this earth. Stuff happens in this earth. And some things are beyond my control. I'll be patient. God, will, inshallah, bless me and reward me in the akhirah for being patient and not giving up. Otherwise, if you bring Allah into the equation, you can't be like, why did this happen to me? Okay? Either don't talk about Allah too much. Okay? Or if you have this perspective, then start practicing it. When the bad stuff does happen, which is going to happen to all of us, we tell ourselves, we never tell ourselves or ask ourselves, why did this happen to me? That is going to be a very big slap in the face. For ourselves. Allah doesn't need us. Nothing's going to hurt Allah and taint Allah. No. Okay? So that's one thing I just want to say on the side. If a person can figure this out, even their last moments will be the best moments, even if they're leaving this dunya in the worst of states, so to speak. And that is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That in those final moments, because he knows Allah was part of all of this, when he holds his baby up and they strike the baby, and he says, what makes this easy on me is that I know Allah is watching, i.e. Allah is part of all of this, some you might say. Or when he is in those final moments with all of the wounds that he has sustained, and he is now leaving this dunya, he's still doing dua. Yeah, yeah. A person who's figured it out like that, yeah, looks to Imam Hussein, sees that Imam Hussein still makes the most of these opportunities. Yeah, this person, inshallah, can follow those footsteps as well. We ask Allah to give us a little drop of this, because I don't know if we can bear more than that. But the amount that we can bear, oh Allah, give us a little bit of that tawheed, inshallah. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. Salat.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد. ثانية على حب الزهراء صلى الله على محمد وآل محمد. ثالثة لتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان صلى الله على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على. Inshallah, every night a reminder before we enter into the majalis just to do a few istighfar, so that allows for a door for more tears, inshallah, to flow, and that we intend to use these tears to benefit and grow, inshallah, through these majalis, not just for the sake of shedding the tears, but inshallah to grow as individuals, as servants of Allah, in the cause of Sahib al-Zaman, in the cause of Abu Abdullah sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, our beloved Holy Prophet, and the Ahl al-Bayt. It was in your homes that Allah blessed us with guidance and revelation, and upon you descend the angels day in and day out. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Madlum. Sallallahu alayka ya ayyuha ash-shaheed fi Karbala. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, our beloved Imam al-Hussein, our beloved oppressed Imam, the Imam who was slaughtered by the shores of the Euphrates, while his mouth was dry of thirst. Everybody together. Ya Habibi, Ya Hussein, Nur Aini, Ya Hussein, Ya Habibi, Ya Hussein, Nur Aini, Ya Hussein. Our beloved Hussein, light of our eyes, Hussein. Ya Rahmatullah al-Wasi'a, Ya Hussein. Vast mercy of Allah, Hussein. Brothers and sisters, we dedicate the night to the companions of Abu Abdullah. These companions who the Imam addresses on the night prior to Karbala. He says about them, I don't know of companions better or more loyal than mine, nor relatives as righteous and keeping of kinship than mine. May Allah reward you on behalf of me all of good. Imagine these companions hearing these words, knowing the coming day is going to be their last. Aba Abdullah went to say, and I believe this is our last day, unless I grant you permission to leave, and I won't hold anything against you. The night is set upon you, you may take your camels and leave. One of the companions then replies in the tent to Aba Abdullah, his name is Muslim ibn Awsaja. He's been heard to have said, Wallahi law alimtu anni uqtal, thumma ahya, thumma ahraq, ثم أضر ثم ينشر في الهواء يفعل بي ذلك 70 مرة ما تركتك فكيف وإنما هي قتلة واحدة ثم الكرامة إلى الأبد. He says, by Allah, were I to know that I would be killed, then brought back to life, then burned, then scattered in the air, and this was repeated 70 times, I would never leave you, for it's only a one-time death and attaining honor for all of eternity, Ya Aba Abdullah. Listen to these words of poetry regarding the companions. We stand here before you, our numbers may be few, but here we are, the best of companions, from where our lessons. Maytham at-Tammat, Maytham gave everything, a moon that was circling your father's star. For Ali crucified, we've come with the same pride from near and far. Our faith will not shatter like Malik al-Ashtar, where a mountain, a scar upon his eye, so may our bodies lie here in ruin. Thirsty will drink the sword, will be quenched by our Lord at the fountain that sits inside heaven. We'll wait there with Hassan for you, Ya Hussein. And this is how the companions of Aba Abdullah were, brothers and sisters, and this is how the companions of Sahib al-Zaman have to be. These companions were some of the best followers. When you look at all the Muslims at that time, these were the diamonds in the whole patch. These were the best of the Muslims at the time. Some had lived amongst the Prophet, and others were just committed followers. Many of them had witnessed the battles and the events of the Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali. The companions of Aba Abdullah were the best of warriors amongst everyone, and yet they're most intelligent and the most learned. They had everything in the same package. Their commitment to martyrdom with Aba Abdullah is unprecedented in the history of the Muslim armies. And make no mistake, this is not a coincidence, brothers and sisters. These people had the best of ideologies, firm ideologies, and a true following of Aba Abdullah in every sense of the word to their Lord and their Imam. They stood firm upon faith in their struggle until this day, in which their stances are echoed throughout the whole world and every single time and era. Every single difficulty that you see, it's connected back to Karbala, to Aba Abdullah, and to these beautiful companions that never gave in. They're admired for the most noble of us to emulate and to follow them. They represented the sacrifice and the standard which we measure all of this loyalty and giving. Among these noble companions was John Mawla Bidar al-Ghaffari, Habib ibn Mudahir, Muslim ibn Awsaja, Al-Hurr al-Riyahi, and many others. Al-Hurr, let us look at Hurr. Al-Hurr al-Riyahi, brothers and sisters, was a camp of Yazid's army. He was the captain who stopped Aba Abdullah before going to Kufa. He, with his 1,000 men, forced Hussein to stay in Karbala. The name Hurr means to be free. Hurr lived up to his name. He freed himself from the fire of Jahannam before it was too late. We should think of Hurr all of the time during our lives. Hurr had a choice between heaven and hell. He had a choice between glory in this world or happiness in the hereafter. It's never too late to ask for forgiveness, brothers and sisters. Hurr chose heaven. He chose happiness in the hereafter. In our lifetime, there are going to be choices every day to make. We have to make a choice between good and bad, between halal and haram, between heaven and hell, between right and wrong. But look at the disrespect. Look at the disrespect that these enemies showed to the grandson of the Prophet. The enemies say there is water nearby, dogs and pigs can drink from it, and wolves can take from this water, but you can't have a drop of it, Ya Aba Abdullah. Hurr was very restless, and it's said that he's probably for sure thinking what a great mistake he made by stopping Hussein in Karbala. As if his heart
is screaming, what have I done? What did I do to put the son of Sayyidah Fatima in this position? Will Hussein forgive me? Will Allah forgive me? The 10th of Muharram arrives. It's very early in the morning. The horses in Yazid's camp were hot and very uncomfortable. They were jumping up and down and they couldn't keep their hooves even on the ground because it was so hot. Some narrations say Yazid's soldiers poured buckets of water on the horses' hooves to cool them down, and Hur watches these gallons of water being poured. Maybe he couldn't take it anymore in this moment. Maybe he's thinking in his mind, so many water gallons for the horses and the animals, while the children of Fatima are crying for a few drops of water. There's so much water for these animals, but none for the grandsons and the children of the Holy Prophet. Hur is intensely thinking, going back and forth. One of the soldiers sees him and he says, Hur, if anyone was to ask me who's the bravest warrior in Kufa, I would say it's you. What is making you tremble like this? Hur says, I swear by Allah, I am making a decision between heaven and hell, and I will never prefer anything over paradise, even if I am cut up, even if I will be burned. Hur mounts his horse and he's taken towards Hussein's camp. Hussein's camp readied their arms to attack, but they see that Hur is not coming for combat. His arms are above his head and he goes to Aba Abdullah. He tells him, Yabna Rasulullah, I'm the one who caused fear into the hearts of your women and children. Is there any way that I can be forgiven? Aba Abdullah, without any hesitation, tells him, yes, Ya Hur, Allah has forgiven you. Allah is Arhamur Rahimin. He's the most merciful of the merciful, always waiting for us to turn back and come back to Him. Hur is now forgiven, but he doesn't stop there, brothers and sisters. He wants to take permission to go fight on the battlefield, one of the first in the narrations. He insists on being the first to go to battle. Umar ibn Sa'd prepares his army to fight against Aba Abdullah, calling out, Ya Durayn, lift your flag. This enemy soldier raises it, stood under it, snatched a bow and shot it towards Aba Abdullah's soldiers. Umar continues, bear witness before the prince that I'm the first to fire an arrow. The rest of Umar's army followed with arrows of their own. Aba Abdullah turns to his companions, telling them, Qumu rahimakumullah, rise up, may Allah have mercy upon you. Prepare yourselves, O noble ones, prepare yourselves for the inevitable death. The companions gathered themselves all at once. What companions these men were and how loyal they were. Let us fast forward a bit and take a lesson from one of the companions of Aba Abdullah during the time of Salat in the day. His name was Sa'id al-Hanafi. When Aba Abdullah was leading the Salat, it is said that Sa'id stood in front of Aba Abdullah. Look what kind of sacrifice, knowing the arrows are going to be piercing through his body. While Aba Abdullah is praying, leading the prayer, he shields the Imam. He takes arrows from the left and from the right. By the time the Salat was finished, Sa'id falls to the ground. So many wounds on his body. Aba Abdullah comes up to him. He asks Aba Abdullah one question. Awafayta yabna Rasulullah, have I fulfilled my duty, O son of the Prophet? What does Aba Abdullah tell him in response? He says, Na'am, anta amami fil Jannah. Yes, you fulfilled your responsibility and you're before me in heaven, Ya Sa'id. A time comes in the battle when Hur tells Aba Abdullah, I want permission to go to the battlefield. Some say Aba Abdullah himself helps Hur on the horse and he goes to the battlefield. He was a strong and brave man. He fought the battle and sent many of Yazid's men to death. Eventually Hur is struck from the left and from the right. So many wounds. Eventually Hur falls off his horse to the grounds of Karbala, severely wounded, and in his last moments it's said that Aba Abdullah goes up to him. He sits by him. He wipes the dust and the blood from the face of Hur and spoke many words honoring him. How beautiful these words from the Imam to Hur in his final moments. Take a listen. أنت الحر في الدنيا أنت الحر كما سمتك أمك وأنت الحر في الدنيا والآخرة. You are free as your mother named you, and you are free in this world and the hereafter. Ajarakumullah. The holy soul of Hur departs on the lands of Karbala. Another one of the companions was fighting was Muslim ibn Awsaja. Abu Abdullah and one of the companions, Habib ibn Mudahir, they go up to Muslim. He was on the grounds of the battlefield. Abu Abdullah stood above his head and recited the verse from the Quran. رِجَالٌ لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بَيْعٌ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَإِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ وَإِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا تَتَقَلَّبُ فِيهِ الْقُلُوبُ وَالْأَبْصَارُ. Men whom neither traffic nor merchandise can divert them from the remembrance of Allah, nor from the prayer, nor from the practice of charity. Their only fear is the day when the hearts and the eyes are transformed into a whole nother view. Muslim still hadn't passed away in this moment. Habib goes up to him. Look at these companions. Look how close these brothers were on the day of Ashura. Habib says to him, it pains me to see you in your tragedy, Ya Muslim. Bear tidings of heaven, Ya Muslim. Muslim replied, may Allah give you goodness, my brother. Habib then says to him, had I not known that I'm in the same position as you, I would have wished that you asked me what you wish of you. Muslim opened his eyes and pointed to Abu Abdullah. He tells Habib, he says, Ya Habib, usika bihada. I entrust you to this person to do all good to him. Fight on his behalf and don't fail in aiding him. This Habib, brothers and sisters, he fought with Hussein until glory. How can we forget Habib? Soon after Muslim ibn Awsa just sold departs on the land, Habib eventually enters into the battlefield. It is said that Habib is 90 years old amongst those who'd witnessed Rasulullah. He stood before Abu Abdullah, and some say he began to cry on Ashura. Abu Abdullah says to him, Ya Habib, have you remembered your family and your homelands? You're free to leave if you wish. Habib responds, no, Mawla. I have replaced my family with a new family and my home with a new home. Abu Abdullah asks him, then why do you cry, Ya Habib? Habib points towards Lady Zainab. She was standing at the door of the tent. He said, I cry for this woman and what will happen to her after you. Hussein looked behind him and saw his sister Zainab. The calamities of Zainab were always on his mind. Habib said, Ya Zainab, the day is coming when you will be upon a camel, and this head of mine will be hanging from a horse's neck, and the head of your brother upon the head of a spear, along with the heads of other companions. He hurried to the battlefield. He fought like the bravest of warriors despite of his age. Soon after battling, a voice was heard, Ya Abu Abdullah, adrikni. Habib is eventually martyred on the plains of Karbala. Ya Habib ibn Mudahir, grab your flag and from your death rise. Habib is slain on the plains of Karbala. What about Abbas, another companion, brothers and sisters? It is said that Abbas goes to the battlefield. He's fighting so fiercely with these enemies, they begin to run away from him. It is said that Abbas takes off his shield. He even takes off his armor, and they say he starts fighting the enemies with his bare hands. They look at Abbas and they tell him, Ajananta ya Abbas, have you gone crazy ya Abbas? The response of Abbas, they say on the day of Ashura, he says, Ay wallah, hubbul Hussein jannani. He tells them, yes, by Allah, the love of Hussein has driven me insane. Look how much beauty and love for this Imam. Abbas fights the enemies until he's eventually martyred on the plains of Karbala. Abbas, Wahab, and the rest of the companions were all the same. All of them fought in honor until Imam al-Hussein was left alone. The Imam began looking to the left, he began looking to the right. No Habib, no Muslim, no Ali al-Akbar, no Abbas or Qasim. The Imam stood before the bodies of the martyrs and began to call out, Ya Habib ibn Mudahir, wa ya Zuhair ibn al-Khayyir, wa ya Hilal, wa يا فلان وفلان ما لي أناديكم فلا تسمعون وأدعوكم فلا تجيبون أنتم نيام أرجوكم تنتبهون أم حالت نومتكم بينكم وبين إمامكم فقوموا من نومتكم أيها الكرام ودفعوا عن حرم الرسول هؤلاء الطغاة اللئام. Aba Abdullah calls them out one by one, saying, O warriors of the battlefield and lions of war, why is it that I call upon you but you don't respond? Are you unconscious, or is it that your sleep has separated you from your Imam? Rise up from your sleep, my dears, and fight off these evil tyrants and defend the women of Rasulullah. في أمان الله يا شهيد الله، في أمان الله يا حبيب الله، في أمان الله يا شهيد الله، في أمان الله يا حبيب الله. رحم الله من نادى وحسينا وغريبا وشهيدا ومظلوما وحسينا وغريبا. Everybody together address Aba Abdullah with your hearts filled with presence. Ya Husayna سلام من قلوب أنت فيها، يا حسينا سلام من قلوب أنت فيها، يا حسينا لك الأرواح طرا نفتديها، يا حسينا peace be upon you from all the hearts you are in، يا حسينا peace be upon you from all the hearts that you are in. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا على بيت محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. To Allah we are from, and to Him is our return, and soon the oppressors will know what change their affairs will take, and the end times will be for the righteous. Ya Allah, in the name of Hussein, by the right of Hussein, by the thirst of Hussein, Ya Allah, we ask you to forgive our sins. We ask you to allow us to shed tears and make a change through these majalis. We ask you to give us a good end on the path of truth. We ask you to fill our hearts with the love of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. We ask you to cure our sick ones and forgive our deceased, Ya Allah. We ask you to bring victory and relief to the oppressed around the world, specifically those in Lebanon, Palestine, and around that area, Ya Allah. We ask you to hasten the return of our Master Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, and to make us amongst his loyal supporters. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد